Hollywood has seen thousands of love scenes and hundreds of scandals, but never a moment as breath-stopping as that night in 1983 on the set of Trading Places. The lights fell softly across Jamie Lee Curtis's bare shoulders. Her shirt slipped loose, the last buttons falling one by one like the rhythm of a held breath. No music, no dialogue, only the quietest sounds. Fabric brushing against skin, the low hum of the camera, and the collective gaze of the crew frozen behind the lens. No one dared to speak, because everyone knew they were witnessing a moment that would enter Hollywood history. Just a few seconds on screen, yet enough to transform the so-called Scream Queen into a symbol of liberation. The next day, Hollywood exploded. The press called it the most daring scene of the decade, but whispers began to spread. Had the studio planned the shock all along? No one ever knew for sure. Maybe it was a perfect PR strategy, or maybe it was an act of courage, a woman taking control of her own narrative. Whatever it was, that night Jamie Lee Curtis made Hollywood stop. And in that breathless silence, a legend was born. Stay till the end of the video to see what happened next, when Hollywood began to fear the very woman it once created. And don't forget to subscribe for more of the boldest, truest stories from the world of cinema. The press went wild. Major Hollywood outlets erupted in what could only be described as the Jamie Lee Curtis fever. Variety hailed her as the fearless actress of a new generation, while the New York Post mocked her mercilessly. From Scream Queen to Strip Queen. Two sides of the same coin, one praising, the other condemning. And Jamie? She didn't fight back, didn't justify herself. She simply said one sentence that made the entire industry go silent. If men can take off their shirts without being judged, women should have the same right. It wasn't a challenge, it was a truth so simple it made people uncomfortable. But in Hollywood, truth can be more dangerous than scandal. Just days after Trading Places premiered, Jamie began disappearing from talk shows, publicity tours, and magazine covers that once couldn't get enough of her. Rumor had it that Paramount quietly canceled a string of interviews, fearing the backlash could hurt box office sales. Nothing was ever confirmed. No records were ever released. All that was known was this. For months, Jamie Lee Curtis's name seemed to vanish from Hollywood. But in that silence, a new fire was kindling, the fire of a woman daring to challenge the system itself. What do you think about this, and let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the stories hidden behind the brightest lights of Hollywood. In 1983, Trading Places hit theaters, and Hollywood seemed to awaken to a new kind of electricity. Audiences came for Eddie Murphy, for the humor, the sharp social satire. But when they left, one image lingered in their minds. Jamie Lee Curtis, draped in a thin white shirt, standing in a softly lit room. There was no music, no dialogue, no seduction, only the sound of quiet breathing, bare skin reflecting the light, and a woman radiating a rare kind of confidence. The scene lasted only a few seconds, yet it felt as if time stood still. Director John Landis once said, "That moment wasn't erotic. It was the art of freedom." Because true beauty isn't about exposure. It's about the courage to face oneself. Still, rumors later spread that the scene had never been in the original script. Jamie herself had suggested it, as a challenge, a way to reclaim her own story through her body. Some crew members said Landis hesitated, fearing backlash from Paramount. But Jamie reportedly told him, "If you want it real, then let it be real." No one knows exactly what happened in that room that day. All that's certain is that when the scene hit the screen, Hollywood fell silent. And from that moment on, Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't just an actress. She became a symbol of freedom. When Trading Places premiered, Hollywood erupted into a war of opinions. Newspapers rolled out nonstop coverage and debates flared everywhere, from movie theaters to dinner tables. Conservative mothers wrote furious letters to the studio. "She's destroying the image of womanhood. This is not what our daughters should be learning." But the younger generation cheered, calling her the heroine who dared to break the moral chains. To them, Jamie Lee Curtis hadn't just taken off her bra. She had stripped away the boundaries that society had long imposed on women. In a world where men were free to display strength, for the first time, a woman was using confidence itself as a form of power. A Paramount employee later recalled that after the first screening, several male executives forbade their daughters from seeing the movie. Not because of the nudity, he said, but because they were afraid their daughters might start thinking differently. No one ever confirmed the story, but the backlash only fueled the fire. Every criticism sold more tickets. Every angry editorial made people more curious, and through that media storm, Jamie Lee Curtis remained still. No defense, no apology. Because sometimes, the silence of a woman is the loudest roar Hollywood will ever hear. In the days following the release of Trading Places, Hollywood descended into a frenzy. The press dissected every frame, every glance, as if they had just discovered the juiciest scandal of the decade. Tabloids screamed with razor-sharp headlines, "Jamie Lee Curtis, Hollywood's nude addict." Late-night talk shows turned her into a punchline, while male actors, half joking, half serious, smirked on television. "She probably can't act unless she's naked." The very lights that once celebrated her now became cold blades, reflecting a society all too eager to worship women for their allure, and then condemn them for the same thing. Jamie Lee Curtis didn't fight back. No press statements, no tears before the cameras. She chose silence, thick, heavy silence like a wall of steel between herself and the screaming world outside. Years later, in an interview, she said softly, "If I had answered, they would have had another story. I stayed silent to keep what was mine." Whispers began to circulate within the industry that, after the backlash, Jamie's name quietly vanished from the casting lists of major studios. Rumor had it she'd been added to a shadow blacklist, a private roster of actresses deemed too independent, too unpredictable, too dangerous for the image of femininity Hollywood wanted to preserve. No one ever proved it. No documents surfaced. But the truth was undeniable. For nearly 5 years, Jamie Lee Curtis had no major roles. The calls slowed, the lights faded. To Hollywood, it seemed she had been swallowed whole. But to Jamie, it was not an ending. It was transformation. In that silence, she read scripts, trained, and waited. Because sometimes, disappearing isn't retreating. It's preparing for a comeback so powerful, so luminous, that the world has no choice but to fall silent once more. Jamie Lee Curtis made her comeback, not with excuses, but with performance. After nearly half a decade of being ignored by Hollywood, she reappeared on the big screen in A Fish Called Wanda, 1988. It was a dazzling role. Witty, sexy, intelligent, never cheap. The audience laughed, then fell silent, realizing that the woman once mocked was still standing, confident, unbroken, and needing no one's forgiveness. The film became a critical and commercial triumph, reopening the very doors that had once slammed shut in her face. And while the world was still catching its breath, in 1994, Jamie did the unthinkable, True Lies. On screen, in a dimly lit room, she transformed from a shy, dutiful wife into a woman of bold seduction, performing a striptease before Arnold Schwarzenegger, a scene that became one of the most iconic and sensual moments of 1990s cinema. No cheap music, no exaggeration, only soft light, trembling breath, and a woman rediscovering herself. It's said that director James Cameron initially planned to use a body double for the scene, but Jamie refused. "If I can't tell my own story, then who am I acting for?" she said. When the scene was finally shot, the entire set fell silent. No one clapped. They all knew Jamie Lee Curtis had just crossed the line between actress and icon. That scene, people thought it was just a striptease, but in truth, it was a visual declaration of a woman reclaiming control. No blinding lights, no erotic zooms, no teasing soundtrack. Only Jamie Lee Curtis, standing at the edge between vulnerability and confidence, slowly shedding not fabric, but the judgmental gaze of the world. Viewers didn't see flesh, they saw strength. A seemingly ordinary wife transforming into a heroine within the walls of her own room. It was the moment when cinema stopped being performance and became liberation. Jamie turned what had once made her the target of ridicule in 1983 into her greatest weapon. True Lies didn't just redefine her image, it reshaped the way Hollywood looked at women on screen. A journalist once claimed that Jamie rewrote her own dialogue in that scene, replacing hesitation with confidence and adding a touch of her signature humor. No one could confirm it, but everyone remembered that half-sly, half-proud laugh that echoed across the set. A soft sound, yet powerful enough to make it clear Jamie Lee Curtis was no longer the creation of Hollywood. She had become the creator of her own legend. Jamie Lee Curtis has often said that every kind of freedom comes with a price, and she paid for hers with her body, her mind, and her reputation. After decades of fighting to preserve her identity in a Hollywood determined to define women by its own mold, she found herself in another battle, a quieter one. In 1999, Jamie revealed that she had once been addicted to the painkiller Vicodin, a dependency that began after a minor surgery. No one expected that the strong, fearless woman on screen had been struggling with her own inner darkness. "I almost let it define me, the same way Hollywood once tried to," she said. And then she chose to rise, not with fanfare or headlines, but quietly by seeking recovery, just as she had once dared to face the truth. Her honesty shocked people. In a world painted over with gloss and perfection, admitting vulnerability was the bravest act of all. Some say that during that time, Jamie kept a private journal titled The Private Self. No one has ever read it, no publisher has ever touched it. But a close friend once described it as the diary of a naked soul, where she wrote about fame, fear, and the emptiness that follows applause. Perhaps within those pages, Jamie rediscovered herself. Not the scream queen, not the sex symbol, but the real woman, made even more beautiful by the cracks that once nearly broke her. Jamie Lee Curtis was born in 1958, right in the blinding spotlight of Hollywood. Her father, Tony Curtis, was one of the era's most charming leading men, and her mother, Janet Leigh, the unforgettable muse of Psycho, whose legendary shower scene terrified the world. From the moment Jamie cried her first cry, cameras were already pointed at the gates of the Curtis Lee household. She grew up surrounded by flashbulbs, headlines, praise, and cruel gossip. That glittering home, from afar, looked like paradise. But inside, it was full of cracks, arguments, betrayals, nights when her parents left for work and never returned together. The tabloids dissected every tear Janet Leigh shed, every date Tony Curtis had. And Jamie, a 6-year-old girl standing quietly in the corner, learned her first and harshest lesson. In Hollywood, you never truly belong to yourself. Rumor has it that Tony Curtis once forbade his daughter from entering show business, afraid she'd be seen as riding on her parents' fame. No one knows if it's true, but in her early years auditioning, Jamie often avoided using the name Curtis. She once said, "I didn't want to be chosen because of my last name." Perhaps that's why. Every time she stood in front of the camera, her eyes carried a quiet determination, as if telling the world, "I don't need to inherit fame. I'll build my own." In 1978, when director John Carpenter began casting for a small horror film called Halloween, no one could have guessed that his choice would create a new cinematic icon. Jamie Lee Curtis, then just 19, unknown, untested, and with no notable roles, transformed into Laurie Strode, the ordinary teenage girl forced to face a masked killer in a quiet suburban home. The movie was made on a shoestring budget, just a few $100,000, yet it grossed tens of millions. And more importantly, it crowned Jamie as the first scream queen in film history. Her terrified scream became the very sound of fear, and her wide, panicked eyes became symbols of survival. But behind the glow of success was a quiet anxiety. Jamie knew she was being typecast, trapped in the image of the frightened girl running for her life, forever screaming, and she didn't want to live inside that scream. A friend once recalled, after finishing Halloween 2, Jamie said she would never scream again, only speak, in her own voice. No one realized how prophetic that statement would be, but she kept her word. From then on, Jamie Lee Curtis was no longer just the victim in horror films. She used her own voice, through performance, determination, and courage, to rewrite the rules for all of Hollywood. Four decades after her first scream in Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis made the world fall silent once again, not from fear, but from pride. In 2023, she walked onto the Oscar stage, bathed in golden light as the applause seemed to go on forever. Her hair was silver, her smile radiant, yet her eyes were still those of Laurie Strode, strong, direct, and achingly sincere. When her name was called for Best Supporting Actress in Everything Everywhere All at Once, Jamie couldn't hold back her emotions. Looking out at the audience, she said through tears, "To all the people who supported the genre movies that started my career, we just won an Oscar together." It wasn't just a thank you, it was the closing of a circle more than 40 years in the making. From the girl mocked for taking off her shirt to the woman celebrated for baring her soul. They say that as she stepped backstage, surrounded by flashing cameras, Jamie whispered to herself, almost inaudibly, "I did it, Mom." No one captured that moment. No cameras, no microphones, but those nearby said they heard something in her voice, trembling yet peaceful. Perhaps it wasn't just a message to Janet Leigh, but to the young girl from 1978, the one who once screamed in fear and could now finally smile in freedom. From the piercing scream of Halloween, 1978, to the seductive power move in True Lies, 1994, and finally to the triumphant tear on stage in Everything Everywhere All at Once, 2022, when she claimed her first Oscar. These are three chapters of the same story of freedom. Along the way, Jamie Lee Curtis didn't just make horror history. She flipped genres, dazzled in comedies like Trading Places, 1983, and A Fish Called Wanda, 1988, proved her dramatic chops in Blue Steel, 1990, and embraced reinvention in family fantasy with Freaky Friday, 2003. Each role built on the last, a scream, a dance, a win. At the premiere of Halloween, she was the terrified heroine. In True Lies, a confident seductress. And at the Oscars, a revered icon. By tracing these moments, you see not just a career, but a circle being completed. From the girl who screamed to the woman who commanded the silence. And so the question remains. In a world built on mirrors and masks, who among us has the courage to finish their own circle like she did? Today, Jamie Lee Curtis lives quietly in a sunlit home with her husband, director Christopher Guest. No noise, no glamour, just a garden, a few dogs running around, and laughter drifting through the mornings. After 40 years in front of the camera, she has returned to what matters most: writing books, doing charity work, supporting the LGBTQ+ community, and simply living as her truest self. No scandals. No artificial gloss, only the peace of a woman who has walked through it all. fame, pain, and judgment. In a recent interview, she said, "I don't need to be loved for my body, but for the truth in my eyes." A quiet sentence, yet it struck like a final cut, closing the chapter on every old label Hollywood once tried to pin on her. Some say that the photo of Jamie smiling at the 2023 Oscars, the one that spread across the world, was taken at the exact moment she realized she was no longer the girl who took off her shirt in 1983, but the woman who had stripped away every prejudice instead. Jamie Lee Curtis's story isn't just the journey of an actress. It's the story of a soul brave enough to write her own script. And the question that remains is this: in today's world, where everything feels performed, is anyone still brave enough to live as honestly as she once did? Subscribe and share the rumors you've heard, because who knows, you might just inspire the next chapter of Hollywood Untold.